This is Taveau DRC, and we're here at the Barista Fellowship where there's plenty of company. You can hear the crowds assembling. And we understand where everybody is always relationship ready here, multicultural, the first, respecting, non gender bias, easily accessible, always professional, always on time. That's what we recommend a good role model. It's a proven mega leadership, even though it's an establishment that you can still find similar in other types of chains that are not barista fellowships. But I'm here today because I love to talk about Apostle Paul. Every time I speak, it's to the Christians, the must be born again Christians. Everyone else is welcome and included, but I want to give the word to them, to you all. So what I'm going to say is it's so amazing that here we sit in the luxury of the century we live in with Paul as the history of the first church. And we think of him in terms of today, maybe like Hollywood, the famous Apostle Paul, capital A, Apostle, mega ministry, chief Apostle Paul. And yet we study, examine, and we realize that he got his heavenly download with which he wrote the whole 2/3 of the New Testament when he was really being the offscouring of the world. That means that even though we would think in this light of Apostle Paul, we could think him as, oh yeah, he's famous, he's at the top. He's at the top. But really, what he went through, he was kicked out, given a left-footed fellowship by the first 12 apostles who were mentored by Jesus. They didn't even want him around. They didn't trust him. They didn't have any way to Google him and do a research on him, but he had a bad rep for many years of being a persecutor. Oh, they're throwing pews here at the Barista Fellowship. Pentecost. No, I'm teasing. So we have this picture of Apostle Paul as the person on top, when really he was at the bottom. Everything was coming down on him, such as he had nobody that supported him in the church. They tried it out for 2 weeks. I think it was Peter and Barnabas, but it didn't work. So he got the left-footed fellowship, and he went up to be in the Arabs up in what is now called Damascus, Syria. And he stayed there for 13, 14 years. I note that Paul really had some relationship concepts when he came back. And one thing, he didn't have any bias toward the Arabs. You notice that. And then you notice that he wasn't scared either of them or anybody. Another part, he made a huge contact with the Lord as his friend. And he writes about, as an encouragement to all the churches in book of Ephesians, chapter 1, verse 17, where he says, I pray for all of you all. He must have been from the South. All of y'all. Paul said, I pray for all of you all to have more of God's Holy Spirit wisdom and revelation in your knowledge of him. That means by being with the Lord, knowing him and fellowshipping with his Spirit, and then just getting to know him over time, not just reading books about him, hearing about him, good sermons about him, YouTubes and all this stuff, but really getting to know him personally in a private relationship. You invite Jesus into your heart, and then he comes in there with the Holy Spirit deposit, the fruits of the Spirit, and over time and reading the Bible, getting good fellowship and edification, building yourself up and learning. You learn how to nurture that it's like a little GPS. It's not a GPS really, but it's like a little inward witness of the Holy Spirit that nudges you, gives you peace when it's okay. And then you can learn scriptures like I've learned, which are discernment based, to help you weed out what are the many voices, if it's God or not, such as James 3:17, used not just for relationships, but for discernment, that any wisdom that comes from above is, first of all, pure, peaceful, easily entreated, full of mercy and good fruit, without partiality and without hypocrisy. So that's a good test. Also, 2 Timothy 1:7, God has not given me a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. Paul writes also in the time of Corinthians, he writes in 2 Corinthians, he said, there are many voices in this world and each one has significance. Just think what that means. That means there are inner voices, dreams, nightmares, ideas, thoughts, ponderings, counsel from others. Then you'll have the voices of your cell phone, of the day, of media, talking heads, word of mouth, gossip, rumors, scuttlebutt, all those things. And then you'll have people that prophesy and teach and train and Bible teach and say you must be born again and all these different things. And I'm really for being born again because I am. I mean, I love it. But it's how it's being related in a disrespectful tone too many times, or condemning, or too hard, or threatening. And that leaves that safety, the emotional protection, and the healthiness of the Holy Spirit by getting out of the James 3:17 criteria of good fruit, respectful, not demeaning to all people. So we also always put a PS in that for our abiding relationship theology. But back to Paul, I like to think that everyone knows his name. Everyone knows he is famous and he's a mighty writer, a mighty ambassador for the Lord, an apostle, true apostle. But we have to also know that the packaging and the life of Paul was not lifestyle of the rich and famous. It wasn't, all popular. It wasn't a title that he used about himself. He wrote humbly, and he writes humbly about mutual respect, mutual submission in the fear of the Lord, in family and in ministry in Ephesians 5, Ephesians 4, the whole chapter, walking in meekness and lowliness and long suffering with one another in the whole body, ministers included and lay. We have the common doctrine. The transformation of the church comes first, and then it affects society, which needs to be happening. But we also find that Paul is lauded, and he is worthy of laud, being honored. But we also say that when he writes, he also says, yes, apostles have they're sent messengers. They're throwing pews again, excuse me. They're sent messengers. They're commanded. A real apostle is commissioned by the Lord to plant a work, a ministry, or a TV station, or a business or something. And then there are all these things, signs and wonders, all these things. However, and we'll quickly finish this blurb. However, the part we don't hear a lot about is Paul says, I'm one of the offscouring of the world. Nobody liked him because they didn't get him. They didn't want to. He signified a new kind of change, challenges and change. The other thing, Paul says, I want all of you to investigate my doctrine. I don't want you to just swallow it hook, line, and sinker. I want you to be like a noble Berean and analyze what I teach. I love it when we talk about Paul. Paul said, I don't want to know anything about anybody except Christ and him crucified. I don't want to be moved by your outer court earth-suit, your gender, the tales I heard about you. I only want to know about you, and if you know the Lord, and are you trustworthy? And I would add for this group, are you James 3:17? Even under pressure. Well, I gotta go. We'll talk again later. This is Taveau signing off for now. Bye-bye. God bless.